Well, good day to you. It is the 18th of November, and I hope you are having a wonderful day wherever you are. My name is Gary Willing, and as always, I want to welcome you to Search for Science if you are new, and welcome you back if you have been here before. But if you want to know more about this information, look into it for yourself. I've included links in the description portion of every one of these videos that take you to websites that give you really good background information about what we talk about in some way. So they're there for you if and whenever you want to look into it. If you want to join the discussion, post your comment in the comment section. You can post your question in the comment section. You can even email me at searchforscience@mail.com. And the funny thing is I had 3 people that commented or joined the discussion, since the last time I put a video up, and they each did one of those 3 things. So Jeremy sent me an email. Thank you for doing that. A gentleman named Maitreya posted his question in the comment section. Thank you, and we'll get to that in a second. And then a gentleman named Lenny and Kalura posted a comment in the comment section, but unfortunately you put a link in there, and I don't allow links in comments. So if you want me to, because I get a lot of spam, and I don't know where those links are and I don't know if they're coming from you or somebody else, so I don't click on those links when they're in my spam folder. So if you want me to watch something, send me an email, and I'll look at it that way, okay? But thank you for doing that too. Now let's get on to the questions, because this person wrote or asked, "Hi Gary, what I don't understand is how if Maitreya has been on TV doing interviews, we have missed him. Surely if that was Maitreya on TV, the world would have caught on." And I understand that, but don't call me Shirley. That's a movie Airplane. That's the movie Airplane reference, if you didn't know what that was. Surely you're kidding. Yes, but don't call me Shirley. Anyway, I would imagine Maitreya speaking would evoke some deep emotions in us all. How have we not noticed him yet? Also, if he has started doing interviews, why has he not just come out and be honest about his mission? So some very thought-provoking and understandable questions, because I get them all the time, and I understand why you and other people have these questions, because it's legitimate. It's very legitimate. Now, I'm going to throw out some scenarios for you to look at, and I'm going to be totally transparent with you, okay? So the first, what I would say would be the most logical explanation as to why we haven't seen him or recognized him on TV after so many times of doing interviews on TV is because he doesn't exist. That's the most logical explanation. He's second cousin to the Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny. It was a figment of Benjamin Creme's imagination. That's it. And somebody like me was duped into thinking that he was who he was, and he was being contacted by these masters and by Maitreya, and that Maitreya would eventually show up on TV and already did an interview, and now that Benjamin Creme's gone, we all see that there's no truth to it. That's the most logical explanation. And to be honest with you, there have been times when people have brought up that they were convinced that Maitreya is the Antichrist. I've even said to them, I would understand it more if you said that he didn't exist than to automatically assume he's the Antichrist after never recognizing him on TV, not seeing him in your own life, not hearing anything that he has to say, not experiencing his love or wisdom, and you're just taking swings in the dark and automatically know that through your bones, through and through, that he's the Antichrist. To me, it would be better to say, there's no truth to it. It doesn't exist, right? Now, I don't believe that to be true, but I could see why somebody would say that, because they haven't had any real evidence of him being on TV in that way. Now, I've had a lot of experiences that have led me to believe that there is truth to what Benjamin Creme was talking about Maitreya, and some of them were quite extraordinary, and some of them even happened before I even knew who Maitreya was even looking for anything like this, or looking for any miracle signs. One time back in the early 90s, I was touring with a music group in Japan. Somebody asked me for my autograph in Japan, and I signed it as a peace sign, a heart, and a happy face. And that I didn't think anything of it, other than it was kind of cool that somebody finally asked me for my autograph, right? But didn't think anything about the peace sign, a heart, and a happy face. Came back to Atlanta, and I can't remember exactly when this was. It was probably about a month or so after I got back. I got lost in this part of town that I had hardly ever gone into up until that point. Now I drive by there all the time. But anyway, and I needed to make a phone call because I was lost, and I went to this little gas station, and used the payphone and written in black magic marker on the payphone, it said, "To Gary." There was a heart, peace, and a happy face sign. It said, "Still alive and well." There was a cross, and it was signed the Christ. And I would have to reassess who and what did that, right? If there was no truth to who Maitreya was. For me, this is just coming from me, right? Now, you don't have to believe me. I'm just telling you this is just for me. If he truly was a figment of Benjamin Creme's imagination, then who or what put that on that pedestal there, right? The other time was the time that I asked Maitreya if he would be willing to ask the Space Brothers to show up as a UFO for my family, in which he did on the 4th of July. A red candle flame looking thing in the sky, bright, bright red, moving very slowly, very deliberately, but also, totally silent. Went right over and behind my brother's house. And the people that looked up, we all saw it. Now, we didn't all think it was a UFO. I knew instantly it was a UFO and why it was there. My brother's neighbor thought it was a UFO. Some of the other people there were, "Oh my God, it's a UFO." Even my little nephew thought it was a UFO until my brother told him it wasn't, that UFOs don't exist. So anyway, and then when I asked my brother, "What do you think it was?" He goes, "It was just a plane." I said, "Really? It didn't have any wings?" "No, it was just a plane. There was no truth to that." I said, "Okay, fine." Right? So I just let him have it. Didn't want to get into it with my brother, but then my nephew, probably to this day, if you asked him, he said, "Oh, that was just a plane." But it wasn't. It was something quite different from a plane, I can tell you that. But anyway, so I'd have to look back and go, well, who or what did that whole thing, right? And then there was a time that I was at a really low point in my life. I was pretty stressed, and I asked Maitreya if he could help. If someone could, I didn't even ask him. I just said, "Can someone help me with the trash in the side of the building that I was cleaning?" And apparently he did, because the next week for 5 days straight, there was no trash in that side of the building. Now you would say, "Oh, okay, well maybe they just weren't in that part of the building." And you know what? That's exactly what I thought at the time, was that that they must have just been out that week. Well, sometime after that, a woman named Carol, who ran that side of the building, just happened to mention in conversation not to lock the door because she was going to the bathroom, "And please tell my associate not to lock the door." And I said, "What associate are you talking about?" She goes, "The elderly gentleman, the older guy that comes and helps out from time to time." And then she mentioned that week that the trash wasn't there. She saw Maitreya, and Maitreya helped me with the trash. And it's a secure building, so you couldn't just walk in there. You'd have to go through security. And I even asked the security person, she had no memory of him walking past there, but yet you talked to Carol, it was like she saw a ghost. She was like, "There was somebody here, Gary, I swear." And I was like, "Yeah, I believe you." But that was Maitreya. So I'd have to look back, well, who did that, right? And then there was a time not too long ago, I was working on the side of my house on a ladder, and it started to tip and fall. And based on my trajectory toward the pavement and the height that I was falling, I would have either been killed, which was very likely, or extremely injured, which was also very likely. But to come out unscathed with no pain, not at all. But anyway, so I was tipping, and as I fell, I was cussing. I'll admit I was cussing. I was cussing up a storm, And about halfway through, I yelled out to Maitreya. I just said, "Maitreya," that's all I could get out, because it would happen so fast. And right when I said that, I stopped in midair and was laid right down onto the concrete. Didn't even feel myself hit the concrete, actually, come to think about it. Had no abrasions on my jeans, on my shirt, on my shoes even. I had no bumps or bruises on my arm, my face, nothing. Did not feel any pain. In fact, when I got up, after wondering what the heck just happened to me, because I didn't know. It seemed so surreal. It seemed like a dream, really, to be honest with you. And when I got up, I actually felt better than I did before the fall. So I'd have to go back and have to ask myself, if there's no truth to who Maitreya is, I'd have to ask myself, well, who and what did that? Right? So anyway, so those, but the cool thing about you hearing this information from me, just an ordinary person, you don't have to believe me just because I said it to you. You can really sit back and think and go, or yeah, I think there might be something to it, or maybe he's still crazy, but there might be something to it. I don't know. But you can be honest with yourself. And I do think that's why Maitreya is not saying who he is on TV. It's not because he's not being honest. It's so that you can be honest in your reaction to what he's saying. Now, the other scenario is he doesn't look anything like what we think he looks like. He's not talking about the things that we think he might be talking about. He might not be speaking in the way that we think he should be speaking. He might be totally incognito, right in everybody's face. We might even remember when we see him and know that that's him, we might even go, that was him? I've seen him on TV dozens of times and had no idea that that was him. That could also be a very likely scenario. Now, there were times that I saw Maitreya by myself or with a group, but there was also other people around, and they, to this day, have no idea that that was Maitreya. You know, I saw him on a video one time in Hyde Park in 2003. He was just one of the many millions of people who were marching against the Iraqi war and going, you know, in England going into war with the United States into Iraq. There were millions upon millions of people at this peace gathering, and he just happened to be one of the millions of people. He wasn't going around saying he was the Christ. He wasn't standing on the stage trying to inspire and galvanize people in that way. He didn't say up on stage that he was the Christ or not or whatever. He was just one of the many people. Apparently, he does not have this need to be the center of attention like Donald Trump would have to have, right? So anyway, that's a joke. But, you know, so if you were to talk to somebody that was there, would they even known that he was there? Probably not. Would they be going around thinking very contemplating about that day and thinking more and more about it, or would they just think it was just like any other day? I don't know. Now, one of these masters did say that it's easier for people to change when they're surrounded by love. So what I've also noticed, and this goes to your question about the heartfelt response from people, maybe possibly we are changing because of his love, and we're just not recognizing it. So, for instance, you know, look over the last 12 years. Look at how far we've come as a people, and also kind of some of the ways we've stepped back as a people, right? So, for instance, over the last 12 years, there have been more people marching against injustice, for peace perhaps, but definitely for the environment, than ever before 2010. Is that a result of Maitreya awakening the hearts of the people while he's speaking to them, you know, through our media and that kind of thing? It's something to think about. Is some of the protests like in Iran and some of these very dangerous protests for people in Russia, you know, sacrificing their freedom and their future and their life, you know, to speak out against, you know, Putin in that way, is that a direct result of Maitreya speaking to the people in Russia years upon years ago, and they're just now starting to waken up to that fact? Throwing it out there for you to look at, right? But even if you look at the divisions, Benjamin Creme's master talked about it and pointed it out years upon years ago, that the world would become very, very divided when Maitreya eventually steps out into the open. Now, he's already kind of stepped out into the open, but nobody's recognized him, right? Or very, very few people have recognized him. So, but you look at how much more divided the world is even from 10 or 12 years ago, you can't compare the two to today, right? And I didn't think it would ever get any more divided than it was back then. And now look at it. There are elected officials in the United States seriously discussing a national divorce, in quotation marks, or a civil war. That type of thinking didn't even occur to even say those kind of things out loud, let alone to have a serious discussion on TV about those things. So the world is way more divided than it was even back then. You know, looking at the way that people are in terms of how they're denying science because of their own faith. And those two groups can't even talk to one another and relate to one another. Just as the Democrats and the Republicans, there is no compromise. There is no, swaying back and forth between the groups. It is divided. And I remember Benjamin Creme years upon years ago saying that we as a humanity would be that divided. He said there would be no woolly edges, as he put it. It would be razor sharp. And it's gotten to the point now where even in my own life, when somebody comes and talks to me about some world event, I can already tell which side they're on based on what they said. There is no, I wonder if they're a Republican. I wonder if they're for Trump or against Trump. There's no question. You can tell based on what they said. And they might not even be talking about politics, and you can see where they're coming from, right? That's how divided we are. Now, Ben's master said we have to get that divided in order to truly make it a choice for ourselves as a humanity, to either change our ways, accept the principle of sharing, and have a future, or continue upon the same way that we are doing today, still have the wars, still have the crime, still have the terrorism, not share the resources and those kind of things, and have this injustice in the world, and destroy ourselves. That's the choice. And the only way to do that, apparently, according to Maitreya, is we have to get very divided in our ways of thinking. So then we can sit back and go, I don't want that. I want this, right? Now, he did say that the end is known from the beginning always, and he knows our answer, and our answer makes him glad. So, a spoiler alert, we will make the right decision according to Maitreya, but we're just going through the process of it now. But anyway, so, you might be seeing the effects of him speaking on TV, but it's not what you were expecting, I guess is a way of saying it too. Just throwing that out there for everybody to look at. But, then if you look at how can he speak so simply and yet people not pick up that is him? Well, if you look at the Bible, right, there are three things I want to talk about. Jesus said, what you sow shall you reap. It was a very, very simple line in the Bible that most people breeze right past. And in fact, he was talking about a universal truth that governs all of humanity and all of cosmos, the law of cause and effect. There isn't anywhere in the cosmos where that doesn't impact or affect somebody. So if we were to all transport ourselves to another galaxy, we would still have the law of cause and effect governing our lives because we're all one. We're all one, entity, or one divinity. And so when we harm someone else, it harms us. So when Jesus said, what you sow shall you reap, very simple. It blows right past people to where most Christians don't believe in the law of cause and effect. They don't believe in karma. They say that's an Eastern philosophy. That's based on the devil. There's no truth to that. But yet Jesus said it to them. It's right there in their face. The other great law that Jesus spoke about was the law of reincarnation. And he was speaking about it so casually that I've never once heard anybody in a church talk about it. In fact, most Christians don't believe in reincarnation. They don't think there's any truth to it. You go to heaven, you go to hell when you die. That's it. We're done, right? Well, Peter was talking to Jesus about he even asked him, who was John the Baptist? And Jesus replied so casually that I think that it didn't seem like this Sermon on the Mount. It was just a casual thing. But he goes, don't you remember what I said? He's Elijah come back again. It was like he was talking about what he had for dinner the other day. I mean, there was no real emphasis put on that at all. They all talk about they don't talk about the law of cause and effect. They don't talk about reincarnation, which are two universal laws that govern all of life and all of humanity, without exception. They focus on what? The Ten Commandments. And if you violate those Ten Commandments, you ask for forgiveness or you go to hell. And you have to believe in Jesus. It's all about the belief, not applying anything he said. So is he speaking that simply, that it's just right in everybody's face, but yet they're blowing right past it because we're distracted? We want sensationalism. We don't want something simple. We want the fear. We want the conspiracy theory. I mean, nothing spreads faster than a juicy rumor, right? Nothing spreads farther than fear, right? But so when he's coming out there speaking just something very simply, are people just not interested in it? Like it or leave it, our media is how we communicate with one another. Maitreya knows this. So when he wants to speak to humanity, he's going to have to go through our media in order to communicate with us. Now, it also, because they are our representatives, if they do not show interest in what he's saying, then that means to him that humanity is not interested in what he's saying yet. So if the interviewer is not asking him a question that, let's say, how would we bring about peace? Is peace important, right? They might not even be asking him those questions because humanity is still not interested in that. We're still too caught up in our own individual petty little lives. We're still following the wrong people, right? We're still entrenched in our own ideology, those kind of things. And yet when he's speaking, he's not going to force the issue because it would infringe upon humanity's free will for him to do that. Seems like a totally foreign concept, infringing upon somebody's free will. Why not do that, right? Especially here in the United States. Our whole culture and our whole society is based on infringing other people's free will, right? This whole country was formed on infringing other people's free will, let alone to today, right? I mean, so why would we not do that? That makes no sense. Well, when Maitreya is out known for who he is and he's teaching humanity and these other masters are out teaching humanity, they will be starting to educate the reasoning why it's so important to live harmlessly, to not infringe other people's free will. Because when you harm someone, even just a little, it comes back on you in just the same proportion. So, like I said, it seems totally like, why would he do that? He's not being honest, right? Well, maybe he is. Maybe he's wanting to tell people who he is, but because we're not showing interest in what he's saying, he can't yet. You know, he works within the law perfectly, like all these other masters. They do never, ever, ever violate that law. And they're here to teach us how to live within that law. So eventually we'll look back and go, oh, that's the reason why Maitreya didn't do that, right? So I'll leave you with a funny story that Ben talked about when he was working with his master. He was working on some spiritual truth, esoteric teaching or something like this, and he asked his master one time about, is that right? His master says, yes, that's it, exactly. So he thought he was getting it. And then he asked him another question about something. His master says, yeah, that's it, exactly. And over time, he started to realize that there was something going on, and he kept saying it the same way. He asked him a different way, and his master said, that's it, exactly how you see it. So these masters, even when working with individuals, they do not infringe upon our free will at all. So their language, their speak might seem foreign, it might seem unusual when we see Maitreya and how he interacts with people, but we'll be seeing someone who's teaching us at that time how to work within the law of cause and effect, how to live harmlessly within that law. So we're just not there yet, I guess, is the other way of saying it too. Is the reason why we haven't seen him. But we'll see him when we see him. But if you don't believe it, that's fine. Just, look at some of the teachings of Maitreya and apply it and see if it doesn't help you. And if it does, it does. If it doesn't, then move on with your life. You haven't lost anything. But hopefully, even if there is no truth to Maitreya, and I'll just pose this out as the question, is hopefully you'll see the need for peace. You'll see the reason why we should end hunger. You should, why we should bring about justice and end injustice, and the reason why we should solve the environmental problem. Over the last 12 years, I've seen a tremendous change in not only myself, but in the people in my life. Some of the people have been very, very, very concerned now about the problems of the world, such as myself, where they weren't so concerned about it before. Other people become much more entrenched in their own beliefs to the point where they're denying all the problems in the world now. And they weren't like that before. This is a direct result of the energy of Maitreya. So thank you for the questions. Hopefully I answered them a little bit as best I could. I could go on for hours talking about this, but I love everyone. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Stay safe over the weekend, and I look forward to putting up other videos in the future. Action. Take care. And help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.